record button. Okay, we're back. Sorry, my jazz hands there. See, I gotta sit on my hands. Hi, everybody. We are back. It's the Linda Laurie show. I
Linda.
gotta come up with a better intro than that. I really
I don't
do.
know. It's okay. I like that
Um,
one too.
the Linda Laurie show, Laurie Linda. Um, Anyway, so this is my lovely co-host, Lori. She's a psychic medium. She's Mi'kmaq. She does what all the things that you do.
Oh, geez.
Isn't that something? Do
My
you do
okay,
you
so let's start with my very first love and passion is
yes,
medium. I contact
medium. Yes.
human, I contact spirit, human world and plant world or trees and energy world. And I
Mm-hmm.
also do animal work. I love
Mm-hmm.
my animal work,
Oh, if
contacting.
I've got an animal
I'm
for
a
you to have a
tarot.
discussion
Oh
with.
yeah. I'm a tarot reader, but I'm an intuitive tarot reader. I've never read a tarot card book in all my life, but that's how I actually started was a tarot card reader. I love
Mm-hmm.
it. I do energy healing. I am a healer. I'm a born healer. I can heal. Just I love it. That's part of it. I'm an ancestor talker, so I talk to the generations like beyond. I do a lot of stuff and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if I was gonna say if I could do this for a living, I'd be the luckiest woman in the world. But I do
Mm-hmm.
it for a living and I'm still the luckiest woman in the world.
I wish I could
I do a
say
lot of stuff.
I wish I could say I do as many things as you do. I have a lot of the tangible world jobs.
Mm,
You
me
know,
too though. I
just
was a
tangible
banker for
world.
16 years.
Yeah. I
I was a
I
bank teller for 10.
I customer service and school board stuff
Yeah.
but as far as the non-tangible world, I love to do the Akashic journeys and I take you with
Mm,
me. I don't just go there and say, here's your book and here's your answer, or give me your question and I'll find you an answer. I don't do that. We go in together. So I'll astral travel to you, I'll tap you on the
mm,
shoulder, and when you feel that tap on your shoulder, then I know
you're
for
right.
sure we are connected and we both go for a walk. And I'm telling you, it is
Yeah. It's amazing. I
it's
do.
it's it's an
Yeah,
honor to do what I do. I really find
I
it
love
an
that.
honor and I love it. I love it. It takes me a
I
day to get prepared
I
and
love
a day
that.
to recover. That's how much
Yeah.
energy we use. It's an
I
incredible
I
journey.
do I do a lot of stuff with souls and spirit healing. So in this lifetime and in past lifetimes, I do a lot of past life work, a lot of work helping heal the soul from the past and helping to
Hmm.
make connections and then soul retrievals here. So retrieving our trauma and stuff like that, like really deep stuff. And one of my favorite things I do is take people that have autistic children and take them on a journey into the mind of the autistic child.
Nice. Yeah.
That is so, and I'm a Reiki
That would be.
master as well, an energy master. Yeah, I do a lot,
Hmm.
and
You do.
I, I do, and I don't know how to explain it. So and you don't know what you're going to get. So sometimes you'll sign up for a reading with me, and you want to speak to somebody, but yes, they want to speak to you too,
Mhm.
but maybe you need the healing portion of it, or maybe there's a healing journey that needs to be
Yes.
take
And
place.
that's
So
and that's that's where your
right,
intuition kicks in.
right, and spirit will take
Yeah.
over. And
Yeah.
I always said I like to do a profile on people, like, but that would take a long time, like an intake, and give them a
Mhm.
chart that says, here's your, because I do astrology as well, and I do numerology, and I do a lot of stuff. So,
Yeah.
anyway, we're going to get going. Yeah, I can sit here all day
Anyway,
talking like this.
I know. So anyway, so tonight we're going to talk about some legends. I'm just going to start with one story, but first what I want to say is legends are something that we cannot prove is correct. We can't prove it. It's a story
Mhm.
that's been passed down and passed down and passed down. Sometimes the story will filter down to, word for word, and then other times it's like the telephone game where one word changes, and so that means the whole story changes. It can be like as far as Sasquatch and I was going to say Hopo Ono Ono, but that's different. Um, there's one in one of the Great Lakes that's say it's the cousin to Loch Ness Monster.
Oh yes,
Um,
Ogobogo or something. I can't
Ogopogo,
remember the name.
Ogopogo,
There's
yes.
something like that. I don't know if that's the
Yeah,
name of it. I just that's what
yeah.
came out of
So
my mouth.
that's exactly it. So Ogopogo,
Oh,
and
okay.
there's a lot of Canadian. There's a ton. The legends are endless. They are so
Mm-hmm.
endless because we have ancestors that are thousands of years old,
Yep.
and as long as we have ancestors, we have legends. There's
Mm-hmm.
um, there's Xena and Hercules. They're legends. We have
Mm-hmm.
no idea if they even
Mythology.
existed. We have no
Right.
idea. There's a legend when I lived in London, Ontario, and like I said, and these are legends that can be um, uh, like 200 years old or they can be 2000 years old. So this
Mm-hmm.
one was in, oh gosh, when did this happen? It was in where am I? Where is it? I had the date here. It was February 4th of, and I'm not even on the correct page. Anyway, I want to say 1840. No,
Mm.
it was earlier than that. It was earlier than 1840. I think it was 1820. But it was the Black Donnellys. So it was an
Mm.
Irish Catholic family that immigrated to southwestern Ontario. Back then it was Upper Canada, and so now there's a road that's called the Roman Line now. So it was never ever. It was basically named after the Irish Catholic population, the Roman Line, and nobody knows the exact story about what
Mm.
happened. So there was six people in this house, and there was two families, and they were feuding. Nobody knows what they were feuding about. Some say it was a land dispute. Some say it was um, a romantic thing, or maybe somebody was assaulted, or we don't know. And the reason we don't know is because after the event, like one family put together a mob and went to the Donnellys' house. This was called the Black Donnellys because back then it was either white Irish or black Irish.
Mm-hmm.
Black Irish, apparently, they were the bad guys. I'm not even 100% sure on that. But anyway, the Black Donnellys were sound asleep in their bed, and they had the neighbor's son was visiting, and he was, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, maybe 10 years old. He was visiting, and he heard a noise outside, and all of a sudden, this mob of people broke into the house, killed everybody except for the neighbor's boy, and he just happened to hide underneath a bed. This part was all recorded in the trials, that he had hidden underneath a bed, and after they thought everybody was dead, they set the house on fire and burnt everything to the ground. And there was two trials and one witness, and that's it. And nobody was convicted of anything. That one
Mm.
witness was that young boy. He's like, it was these people that came in and did this, but all the evidence, all of everything was completely destroyed because they didn't want the ancestors of the Black Donnellys create like keeping the feud going. That's the
Mm.
only reason. So that's what makes that a legend, because
Mm.
nobody knows, nobody alive knows that story.
Mm.
Um, and again, that was only like in the early 1800s. Oh, that was just the
Mm.
weirdest thing I just saw. That was February 4th. That's the only
Not the
February
weirdest
4th in
thing
the
because it
early
happens
1800s.
to us all the time. Weird things happen when we're on the air.
Weird things
Dolls
happen.
that dolls that blink their
There's
eyes and
Yeah, and there's legends of dolls, walking. There's
hmm
legend of hmm that light that
legend.
I saw in
Yeah,
the
I know.
woods. There's that legend. I don't know what it
Mhm.
was. Nobody knows what that was, but I saw it.
And there's a difference between legends and like creepy stories and campfire stories. And there's urban legends as well.
Hmm.
So there's lots of like really creepy urban legends that we have. And urban legends are things that kind of like they're not an old wives' tale, but it's like a warning to not do something or, you better be careful of this. And the one that comes to my mind is an urban legend. And I'm sure everybody has heard about this one. When I was growing up, I heard about a and this was like in so this is recent within the last 50 years um that I heard that this had happened, and I've done my research and I can't find that it has happened, but every time they had the same thing. But anyway, so the legend is that you're in university. Usually they call it college down the states, we call it
Hmm.
university here, but we also
Hmm.
have college too. And all these students like to go out and they like to party and like to have a great time. And so there was this young girl, she was living in the dorm, and she was like, she was a really kind of poor person. She got scholarships to go, and so she had lived her life in rural country. But let's just put it at rural Nova Scotia she lived in. And
Hmm.
so she decided to move to city, and she decided to go to one of the universities up here. The one I heard it had happened to be from Dal, but I know that that's not absolutely true.
Hmm.
So, so there's something that is kind of questionable, because when you tell them that, you're like, this could be true. And it has happened, um, you know, but maybe not the place that they said it's happened. So anyway, so the legend is that she came up here and she was making friends with people, and she was having a really, really great time. And she ended up having this friend of hers move in with her into the dorm room. And they got along okay, but they weren't the greatest of friends at all. And so this girl would talk to her mom every night on the phone. And she was like, you know what? I'm not sure if I like it here. Like it's a lot for me to be here in the city. I don't, I'm not a partier. I'm not a person to want to leave and go out and have fun with the friends. I just like to stay in the room. And her mom was like, yeah, it's really dangerous there. So just, be very, very careful. You're in a big city, so everything is like new, and, just stay inside. So she had time. There was this time when they decided that she was going to go out. She was finally going to go out, and her and her roommate were going to go out, and they were going to, it was celebrating the end of exams, and Christmas was coming up. And so she's like, Mom, I can't. She calls her mom, and she realizes that she doesn't have the money to go home. So she had
Hmm.
no money to go home for Christmas. How am I going to get this money to go home? She doesn't know. She's like, I don't understand. So her roommate's like, well, I'm going to be staying here over the Christmas holidays too. So why don't we just decide to bunk together and we just make Christmas for ourselves? So the
Hmm.
girl's like, sure, that's really, really great. I really appreciate that. So they decided that they were going to go out, and they get separated. They went to one of the local bars and they got separated. The roommate had met somebody, didn't really know who it was. She just only saw him from the back. She knew it was a guy. And she lost track of her. So those two went on their own, and she's still out by herself. So she's like, I'm just going to decide to just, go get some ice cream and kind of go
Hmm.
home in a cab. Like, this isn't my scene. So in the meantime, her mom gives her a call. And so she decides to stay on the side of the road, and she's talking to her mom, and her mom's like, I got you some money to be able to come home. Your bus leaves tomorrow. So you have to make sure that you can make it to the bus station. So she's like, oh, yeah, I can do that. She goes, make sure you go home and you pack yourself a bag and get ready and go meet me at the bus station. I'll be on the other side to meet you. She says, I managed to get some money. So she's really excited. She's like, okay, great. I'm just going to go home. I'm going to go in. I'm going to pack my stuff. I'm just going to leave right away. I don't want to wake her up. So she ends up going back to her dorm room, and she kind of was like poking around. She didn't turn any lights on, but she could see her roommate like laying on the bed, and she could hear her breathing and snoring and all that kind of stuff. And she's like,
Hmm.
okay, well, she says her name. She was like, Sarah, are you okay? And she's like, okay, well, she's sleeping. So she's going through her clothes, and she's got her flashlight going because she doesn't want to wake her up. Because, she's like, so she left her a little note, and she's like, okay, I'm going home for Christmas. Have a really great Christmas. Sorry to leave you alone, or whatever. She leaves, she closes the door. So she's getting ready to leave. She's gone. She goes, I'm going to the bus stop. I'm going home for Christmas. And Christmas time comes and she has a really wonderful time with her family and had this great time. And she's like, I got to go back. She goes back before New Year's. So she's like, I'll have some time with my roommate. Because she's still back there. She hadn't heard anything from her. So she kind of thought her roommate was mad at her. So she goes back home and she goes back to the room and she's like, okay, I wonder if Sarah's here because I don't understand. The door is unlocked and it's open just a little bit. So she goes inside and Sarah's still sleeping. So she's like, I'm not going to do anything. Just gonna sit here
Mhm.
and wait for her to wake up. And she's like looking around. So she goes to the washroom and she turns on the light and scrawled on the window of the mirror was, aren't you glad you didn't turn on the lights?
Oh,
And
no.
so she
No.
runs from the bathroom and she's like, what the hell just happened? And she pulls back and there's Sarah laying there, not sleeping,
Oh, not sleeping.
unalive. So they have no idea who did it. They have no idea what happened. They just know that she was in the room at that very time. And had she turned on the lights, she would have seen him. And it would have been ding dong time for her. So
Okay, okay.
yeah, so the killer was actually in the same spot as her. And when she had left, and that was on the bathroom, when she went to the bathroom, turned it on, and he knew she was going to see that. Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the lights? Because had she turned on the lights, he would have been standing behind her.
Hmm. Game
So
over.
that was a
Oof.
legend that I heard, and I heard it in junior high and high school. And it's an urban legend because you know what? It could happen. And there was a movie out called Urban Legend, and that had that one featured in it as well. And I was
Hmm.
not the brightest of people in the world. And I'm like, well, how did they find out a legend that happened here? Because I really believed it had happened. And I do
Hmm.
believe so. Urban legends leave you believing, could that happen? And they leave a lesson for you behind, right?
Hmm.
So, that was
Well,
something that I was always afraid of.
there's one legend that actually my granddaughter was told this at school. I think it was in October.
Mm.
Um, uh, and it's during the time of residential schools
Hmm.
and about this boy that walked, oh gosh, hundreds and hundreds of kilometers in the winter
Hmm.
time and he froze to death. And so
Yeah.
there's all these stories of him, his
Yeah.
encounters on the way. But I asked her, I said, well, how do you know if he was by
Hmm.
himself walking on a railroad track? How do you know he had these encounters? She's like,
Hmm.
well, because that's what I was told. Okay, well, that makes it a legend.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, this boy died.
Hmm.
Very unfortunate because he walked a long distance, but he wasn't that far from home. But the thing is, he didn't get to tell his side of the story. He didn't get to tell his experiences, and nobody along that track, because it was a very rural
Hmm.
area. I don't know, was it in Ontario or was it in Saskatchewan? I
I
know.
believe it was in Saskatchewan, and it was
Okay.
an actual. It wasn't. It actually happened, so it wasn't
Yes.
really a legend.
Well, the
And Gord.
legend
Mhm.
part is all his encounters along the way.
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Gord Downie wrote a song about that, and he spent a lot of time with Indigenous people. I believe it could have even been Ontario. And there this big huge song, and it's called The Stranger.
Yes.
And there's a
Yes.
documentary out about it. His name was Charlie
Yes.
Wenjack. And he escaped from the residential schools and he almost made it home. And the best part about this is that they don't really know 100% what happened. So Gord Downie thinks he knows what might happen because he come across like some elders along the way, and he came across a bear, and he came across a rabbit. We call him a bligamooge and a mooin and a bear, and he would talk to them, and they would encourage him to go on. And he found the railroad tracks, and he was walking because the railroad tracks are really close to his home, and he was literally found frozen to death And he was probably about another maybe half hour to hour away from his home.
Mm-hmm.
And Gord Downie actually interviewed his entire family, the descendants of his. So his,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they were sisters or what, but that happened in the last like 30 or 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely something that we need to, as Canadian in Canadian history, that we really need to take notice of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's definitely a legend because the legend part is that we don't really know, but we accept it as being true,
Yes.
right? So we
So
like,
yeah, so there is a Charlie Wenjack. Is it? I can't
yeah, I
remember.
think it's Charlie
There's
Wenjack.
a
It's called The
foundation.
Stranger. Yeah, it's
Yes,
called
there's
and it's
the
called The
foundation. Yeah.
Stranger.
Yeah.
And it's a really great, I've watched the documentary on it about him going back. And when he did, Gord Downie was really, really sick at that time. And it was one of the last things he released before he actually died.
Mm-hmm.
It was very moving and very beautiful, seeing him go back to that. And that's absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely legend. And, you know, there's been a lot of atrocities that has happened to my people. I've had family that were residential school survivors. The last one closed in 1996. So that
Yeah.
is in our lifetime. I
Yes.
mean, I
Yeah.
graduated high school in 92. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, so
Yeah.
he was it was legendary. That's the part of the legend part is what actually happened because they have, um, things that they think had happened. They have witness accounts of him like getting in a truck with somebody and driving so far and getting out. So they know the story of that, but they don't know 100% what had happened. So they kind of go with what they thought happened. And
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
sad legend, but I'm glad that
So
your
yeah.
granddaughter learned about that because we
Mm-hmm.
actually were having conversations about that today at the school that I work at as well. I do lunch monitoring at a school,
Mm-hmm.
and it was we were talking about what we learned in school, what was true, what was
Mm-hmm.
legend, and what
Mm-hmm.
was complete fiction,
False. Yeah.
right? So,
So
yeah, it's really
another
interesting.
well-known, so in Nova Scotia,
Hmm.
the tourism map. So I think you know where I'm going here. So the
Yes, because
tourism map, we've got Marine Drive, we've got the Cabot Trail, we've got all these touristy trails that you can go on,
hmm
and it covers. There's is there Luna? I can't remember all the different trails, but the one that I remember the most was the Glooscap Trail, and it's like the
hmm
next county over. I think it's the next road over, to tell you the truth.
hmm
So I
Yep,
grew up on
Centuro.
Marine Drive, which
Hmm
takes you all the way up to a certain part of the county and then down Sheet Harbor and Musquodoboit Harbor and all that way, down that way. So I grew up on
Super
Marine
way. Yep.
Drive, and I think the
hmm
next road over was the Glooscap Trail, because once you get up
hmm
into Truro and Brookfield and all those places, you see Glooscap and there's
hmm
even a Glooscap Trading Post. I don't know if it's still there. I haven't seen it.
Glooskap Trading
Gloos,
Post is still there.
is it
And
still
there's that
there?
big statue of Glooskap as you're
Yes.
driving in or out of Truro.
Yes.
And that he is our legend. When I was researching some more legends to be able to tell, because in our culture we have to be really appropriate by what we tell. And there is one a little story I'm going to tell you a little bit about a legend as to
Mm-hmm.
why we don't do something,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it has to do with, a legend of our people. But Glooskap was the first one. Like our creation story is a complete legend,
Mm-hmm.
and everything has to do with Glooskap and how he became, and how he was made, and all those kind of stuff. And it would be really, the story is so long, and I know I'm a great storyteller because I get into things, and
Yes.
yeah. I mean, if you had
So
wigs, I would be doing it.
here's
But
a question.
Glooskap is the
Where does
trail, and it's
where
amazing.
does where does Nanook fall into that? Does Nanook and Glooscap, are they intertwined
They're
somehow?
they're not intertwined.
They're not. Okay.
Nanook
Okay.
is a book that was written by Farley Mowat, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Um,
Okay.
but let me look that up because I think it is Nanook of the North. Let me see.
Okay.
Eh, I
So,
think it was
okay.
Farley Millard. I'm not.
I I think
Oh,
I
Nanook
was
of
in
the North
grade.
was a book about Inuit people. I didn't know
Okay.
that
Okay.
one, but
I was in grade 4 when I heard about Nanook,
it's
and
a,
I never ever, I
it's a
just remember
polar
the
bear.
name. Yeah, a polar bear, right? Yes, not
Mhm.
Glooskap. Okay. I should have done my
No, but
research
that's
on that one.
okay. No, that's okay. No, but that would also be a legend because
Hmm.
it's like the legend, the Nuke, the Nunuk of the North would be also another name that they would give to the Nuyottuk people or the Inuit people.
Hmm.
Um, also some of the Anishinaabe people or the Cree people, like they would know the same ones and so on. But Nanook would be like sometimes you look it up and it means a dog. It means like a sleigh dog.
Yes, I remember it being a dog. Yes, that turned
Yeah,
into a polar bear.
perhaps. Yep. And
I
that's a
think
legend as well. That's like there's a
yes.
lot of stuff in our culture about legends, about changing into
Hmm.
to other creatures. And that's actually where we're coming about Glooskap. And Glooskap, he could change. He was kind of a trickster. So he liked to play tricks on people. And one of the actual things I was going to read to you guys is actually the legend of how the bear got the medicine. So how the Muin got the medicines. Not sure how much time we got left. We got a little bit of time, but there was
A
two
half
of
an
them.
hour.
There was two of them I want to talk about. But this
Hmm.
goes hand in hand with Glooskap because I was going to talk about the creation story. However, it's quite long, and so there were so many that I want to talk about. So many legends, and there's so many, and oh my God, the legends of the Spirit Sisters and so on. I just love to have a night where we talked about legends and the Spirit Sisters and stuff.
Hmm.
But I want to digress back for a second
Hmm.
to tourism because right now I'm going to do a little plug for myself. I'm a student. I'm doing my Bachelor of Arts degree, um, and I'm in a GINU program. The GINU is in Mi'kmaq um, tourism and bringing Mi'kmaq experiences to Mi'kma'ki, which is like Nova Scotia, PEI, parts of New Brunswick, bringing that to Mi'kma'ki, Unama'ki, to Gaspawick, in their different territories. So we're trying to do that in an appropriate way. And I'm getting my degree in tourism and hospitality management and business. So um, these things that we're talking about now is probably could be used as a project and as a way and an idea going forward to bring our legends to life and as a tour, for tourism to teach our people and to teach other people about our culture and sustainability and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really passionate about that. So when you said that, my eyes lit up and I'm like, yes,
Yes,
and
here we
one of the
go.
projects that I know, like one of the projects I'm doing is actually on Kejimakujik Park, and there is a
Hmm.
legend associated with that. Um, but that's not what I'm going to tell tonight. So I'm actually going to tell a little story about why you don't do something.
Okay.
So we always, growing up as kids and as teenagers, you're always said you don't, don't put the crayon up your nose; it'll get stuck there, right?
Hmm.
Um, don't look in the mirror and say Beetlejuice 5 times because he'll appear,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You have like, don't cross your eyes. So
Hmm.
would that be a legend, do you think, as to
Uh,
why you don't do
old
that?
wives' tale. Old wives'
Yeah.
tale.
So what's the
Yes.
difference? So we have a legend about why you don't whistle at night.
Hmm.
I don't
Ooh,
know if
I've been very
anybody's ever,
curious about this.
right?
Hmm.
So I don't know if everybody has ever heard of this, but we don't whistle at night, especially inside. So outside, I'm not laying any claim to none of it. Please, I'm not giving that back to no one. So there you go. We're very, I brought this up to quite a few of my friends. And I actually went to an elder about it because before I relay any teachings, before I relay any stories, I always make sure that I talk to an elder. Those are people that are right here. So talking to them, you know, they give me permission to say it or not to say it. And so when we were doing the campfire stories last week, they're like, no, 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 don't talk about it because it was already dark. And I had no idea. But this is a story about why you don't whistle in the dark. So many, many years ago, like way back when our ancestors were roaming the earth,
Mm-hmm.
they used to have, you know, they used to hang up dream catchers in their windows and in their
Mm-hmm.
doorways. And dream catchers weren't like, we all know the legend of the dream catcher where, the bad dreams get stuck in the web and the good dreams kind of float through with the beads and the feathers and they go into the person's day and they have a good day. That's the quick part of the legend. When they made them, back then, they weren't completely made of um, what we make them of now. They're made of like household items, like a spoon. So when you put the spoon there, that would be an offering for the protection spirit of the animals to come and eat to help them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they would be made out of wood, right? So there was different kinds of wood that they would use, different kinds of branches. And so one day there was these kids outside and they were playing and they were trying to figure out what kind of wood they were going to be bringing back to make a dream catcher. Because this one little girl, she was having such a hard time. She was having nightmares at night. And in her nightmares, she was dreaming about being chased. And she was being chased by a bear. And then she was being chased by a rabbit. And these things, sometimes rabbits aren't that ferocious. So she's like, first it started as a rabbit and then it started as a bear. And the bear got bigger and bigger and bigger. So she's like, I need to make this dream catcher to make sure that I don't have bad dreams. So they're like, okay. So they're trying to figure out what it is. And they find this piece of wood, and it's probably about this big. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's perfectly round. And it looks like what we would probably call bamboo, right? And so, but where would they get bamboo here in
Mm-hmm.
Nova Scotia? It's really hard. So they're looking at this. So, I mean, let's just put this back at, I don't know, let's say this is 1700s or even further back.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking through all of this and they're like, what can we do with this? And so they started playing with it and they're like, what are they doing? And they're looking through it like this, like kids do, and trying to put something on the end of it. And they made like a kaleidoscope. And so the little girl decides, there's a boy and a girl and they're playing and she decides to blow into it. And it makes this really interesting sound. And I'm not making a whistle sound. I can whistle.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna do it because it's nighttime. I ain't doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm. So she blows into this, and it sounds like this music, like a whistle, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it keeps echoing and echoing and echoing. So she keeps doing it. She keeps echoing and echoing and echoing. And then it goes from this really kind of low pitch to this really high pitch whistle. And they're like, this is kind of crazy. So they like doing this because it's making this
Mm-hmm.
noise, almost making this music. And she's like, I'm going to use this on my dream catcher because this is very, very lovely. So she takes it in and they're look what I have, mom. I have this thing. And the mom's like, oh, she's like, it makes a whistle, like a whistle sound. And her mother's like, what do you mean a whistle sound? Whistles are bad luck. And she's like, why are whistles bad luck? Like, I don't understand. She's like, oh, you don't want to do a whistle. You don't want to do a whistle, especially after dark. And her mother's like, why? She goes, well, didn't you know that summons the bad spirits? It
Mm-hmm.
opens up a portal to another deep, dark dimension. And mom is like, go put that back. You don't want to make a whistle. And she's like, no, I want to make a whistle. So her mom demands her to go put this back. Go put that back. So she's like, okay. So she doesn't put it back. Instead, she decides that she's going to sleep with this whistle underneath her pillow. And so She does. And in her
Mm-hmm.
dream, she dreams about lovely things and she starts hearing this beautiful whistling and it sounds like
Oh.
there's a there's a bunch of beautiful little birds flying and butterflies
Mm-hmm.
and all this wonderful things. And she's like, finally, I don't need that dream catcher to take away my bad dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So she's lovely jumping through the fields and she's having this. And then all of a sudden it gets dark, really dark, like complete blackness. And she can't see
Mm-hmm.
anything, but she can hear a whistle. And she could hear this whistle from a mile away.
Yeah.
And it starts to get closer and closer and closer
Mm-hmm.
until she closes her eyes and she's like, I just want to wake up. Because then this whistle starts screaming and whistling.
Mm-hmm.
And then she can hear this whistle like really loud and it's screaming and screaming. And so she's like, please, please, I just want to open my eyes. I just want to open my eyes. She opens her eyes and she's back in her bed and she's like, hey, nothing happened. So why can I not whistle? Like, why am I not allowed to whistle? Because like I didn't understand that. So she gets up, she goes about her day, and she's talking about, you know, mommy, I didn't put that back. I slept with it underneath your bed. And her mother's like, what did you do? She's like, oh, well, I had this dream and it was total blackness and it was kind of creepy and da da da, but nothing happened. And her mother's like, oh, you need to put that back because you just summoned something from the darkness. And she's like, no, I didn't. Nothing happened. It was creepy and it was like really loud. And she's like, you need to go put this back. And she goes, and don't whistle. You don't whistle in the dark. They will come for you. She's like, no, no, they'll be fine. I'll be fine. It's just a legend. It doesn't happen. So she goes and she's like, I'm going to keep this. So to make her mom happy, she takes it back outside and she lays it down in the ground. She goes, see, mommy, I left it there. I left it. And so she comes in, she has her supper. She's like, she's talking to her friend that day, but he didn't really want anything to do with her because he was kind of like, I'm good. I don't need to play today. And she's like, huh, all right. I don't get that. And she said she kind of freaked him out a little bit. And so she would go to another friend's house and they're like, No, we don't want anything to do with you. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so then she goes home and she's like, Mom, I left it outside. There's nothing happening. And her mom's like, okay, well, maybe it's not too late. So it's time for bed. So Sarah climbs out the window to go get this whistle. She knows exactly where she left it. She grabs the whistle and she blows on it.
Ooh. Yikes. Okay.
And it's dark outside. And so she starts to see butterflies again. It starts to get really bright. And then it gets really dark. She can hear footsteps. She starts to hear the footsteps get closer and closer and closer and closer. And the whistling gets louder and louder and louder and louder. And she's covering her ears and she's like, I don't want to whistle anymore. I don't want to whistle. I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't want to whistle. And she turns behind her and these two white eyes are just staring back at her. And she's like, oh my gosh. And she's running and she starts running back to her house. And she's like, oh my gosh, I swear I don't. And she's got the whistle in her hand. And she's like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, there's this something chasing me, and I don't know what it is. And so she doesn't realize that this whistle in her hand is what's causing all of this
Mm-hmm.
big, huge thing to happen. And so anyway, she's like, oh, and then she looks, and it's this piece of whistle, and she's like, I'm going to throw this whistle away. So she throws it away, and she goes inside, she shuts the door, she locks the door, and her mom's like, what are you doing? And her mother's up, and her mom's like, straightened, and she's like, I had to go out and I had to get the whistle and it turned really bad. And she goes, but everything's okay now. I threw the whistle away. And then they hear outside the whistle and it's
Mm-hmm.
getting louder and louder and louder. And she's like,
Mm-hmm.
Mommy, make it stop. Mommy, make it stop. It's whistling. It's gonna make it stop. Make it stop. And her mom's like, we can't make it stop. We have to give it something. And she's like, what do you mean we have to give it something? She goes, we have to give it something. We have to give it a soul. And the only time
Okay.
we need to give it a soul. And she's like, Oh, I don't. She goes, and it's usually the person that makes the whistle come. So her
Mm.
mother's like, the only way we can get rid of this whistle, the only way we can do this is to give them a piece of your soul. And she's like, no, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And so her mother walks closer and closer towards her, and her mother starts whistling. And then you hear the other whistles coming, and you hear more whistles start to come. And it just go, and she crouches into a little ball, and she's wondering what's going to happen. And then her eyes open, and she's laying in her bed, and she's looking around. She's like, where am I? And she walks out, and her mom's in the kitchen. And her mother's like, are you okay? She's like, I just had this really bad dream about whistling, but I think it's okay because you had to take a piece of my soul to make the whistling stop. And her mother goes, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm okay. She goes, who are you? And she's like, what do you mean, who am I? I'm your daughter. She's like, no, my daughter got lost to the whistle. Who are you? And that's the end of the story.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So
Well, that was
what the I
creepy.
mean, isn't that creepy? But that's why we don't whistle at night because we summon
Mm.
things from places that we don't want to summon them through. And everybody I asked this to tell me that their version of the story, I did get the version that I told you, but a little creepier and a little
Mm-hmm.
worse, a little more graphic.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So we're not going to go there with, I don't do that.
No,
Um,
no.
but everybody is afraid to tell it and everyone's afraid to do the whistling noise. And every time we do it, or every time someone will tell it, you always have that one person that thinks they're better than everyone else and they start whistling.
Yeah. Yes.
And then they don't feel better about that afterwards. They feel really
No.
creeped out. So you don't
Mm-hmm.
whistle at, so the legend is never whistle after dark.
Mm.
Because you
Yes.
are opening a portal. That little hole
Yeah.
that you make to whistle is a portal
Yes.
that's opening, and it's part of your spirit that's leaving you. So that's
You
the
know, I just there's something that happened to me. Gosh, now that you just said that, like did that, and
Mhm.
it's like a vortex of
Yep.
wind.
Hmm.
Okay, I know this. That I'm gonna sidetrack. Oh, we got
That's okay.
15 minutes. I'm
Because
gonna
I
sidetrack
sidetrack all the
this.
time. Mhm.
I mean, I have no way of proving, so I guess this is my own personal legend. But anyway, I'm in my bed, and I used to listen to this radio show. It came on at midnight, and it was a lot to do with what the things that we talk about. Only, they she had guests on and got really, really more expert guests on certain subjects. And anyway, they were talking about what was it like time travel or jumping timelines and that sort of thing.
Portals. Yeah.
And I'm laying in bed and I'm just listening to the show and I got my eyes closed and I opened my eyes and you know what? I still have this drawing that I made. I opened my eyes and I could see. Oh gosh, I'm getting goosebumps now just thinking about it. But two red eyes. Thank you. I
Hmm.
appreciate that. Two red
Hmm.
eyes. And so I do this and and I thought maybe I'm dreaming because sometimes when I listen to the show would infuse into my dream and I'd
Hmm.
be there, listening
Yeah,
and
that
and
makes
and
sense because it's all energy, right?
it's yeah. And so I opened my eyes again and I saw this little red oh gosh. Do you remember the Ewok adventure from
Hmm.
okay, so that's kind of what it looked like, only it was red, curly, furry thing, and it was slowly disappearing and it was maybe 3 feet tall. Um, and it was just slowly disappearing from the floor up. And I closed my eyes. I'm like, no, I don't even know what you are. Just get out.
Hmm.
So I closed my eyes again. I thought, well, I don't even know what the heck that was. But all I could think of was this little furry guy. The following night, I've got, um, I'm listening to the show again. I don't even know what the topic was, but I'm still stuck in the different timelines.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in the Facebook chat group, and we're chatting away about the show topic, and whatever was going on the show. And it felt like somebody was standing beside me. And I thought, okay, I don't even know what's going on. No idea what's going on. And so I went to somebody had messaged me
Mm-hmm.
and said, like somebody private messaged me and said, I don't know if you can help, but such and such is crying, is very, very upset. Can you message her and see if you can help her out? Because, I was the administrator of the group, and maybe I can figure out what the problem is and why she's crying so hard. But anyway, I still have a person standing beside me.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, this is so weird. So I go to message the person, and now, because I had a tablet at the time, and my finger is just not pushing the buttons. Nothing's working. Like, what? I don't even know what's going on. I can still hear the show. I'm still listening to the radio show on the tablet, but the screen wasn't working. So I go back into the group, and all I typed in was, this is really weird what's going on right now. And I was able to press send, but I could not go back and private message this woman. And it still got the show going on. I can still hear it clear as anything. So I thought, okay, well, maybe if I reboot my tablet, sometimes electronics get overloaded. And so it's just a simple reboot. So I reboot the tablet, and it's turned off, and now it's turning back on. I can still hear the show. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, what is going? I can still hear that show, and I still got this strange person standing beside my bed. I don't know what's going on. Um, Tablet comes back on. I messaged the woman and said, are you okay? Is everything okay? Somebody told me that you were very, very upset. So then, after I messaged her, because that was, to me, that was very important.
Mm-hmm.
After I messaged her, I go back to the show website, and I turn it back on. But the whole time I'm thinking, I can still hear the show playing, clear as anything. I go back to the website. Okay, well, I can see it's still playing, but how is that possible? Because I
Mm-hmm.
shut my tablet off.
Right.
I turn it back on, press
Mm-hmm.
the play button. And so now the show resumes. This woman messaged me back. She's like, can you just hold on a second because I'm on hold? I'm about to go on the air. Okay. I said, okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're done, if you want to chat, you just let me know. So she goes on the air, and her call, I'm listening to her call. It was clear as anything. And now I feel this person who was beside me walks to the back, like the foot of my bed. I'm laying on my stomach, walks to the foot of my bed and goes, and I thought, oh my God, there is somebody in my bedroom. I can feel somebody clear. Anyway, I'm listening to this woman at the same time on the air, and then she
Mm-hmm.
starts telling her story, and then she starts crying.
Oh my gosh.
She starts
You
crying
went
on
to
the
a
air.
different timeline.
What? I was in three different timelines. So
Wow. I've
I've
done
got
that
this,
too. I love
I've got
this.
this, I've got this little red furry guy this night. The following night, I go to three separate timelines. And so when this woman, when she hung up, when she was not on the air anymore, she messages me, and I said, she's like, how did you know I was going to cry? And I said, I don't know. Somebody messaged me and said that you were crying. And she's like, no, I had no idea that telling that story was so emotional. Okay, that's even weirder. So then I go back to the group, and here's my message saying, there's something really weird going on here. So
Mm.
the next night, the
Mm-hmm.
next night, I'm laying on my side. I'm laying on my right side. Now, because the little red fuzzy guy was on this side, I'm going to face this way. I'm going to face this wall instead. All of a sudden, it got extremely cold in the room to the point where I could almost feel like my nose, it felt like,
Mm.
when you go outside and minus 30 degrees.
Right.
And um, like it felt like frostbite on my face and almost like I could see my breath.
Mm,
Next thing you know, my mouth opened and I could feel like, when you say, oh, and your mouth makes I'm afraid to even make a circle with my fingers now. The whistling story freaked me out.
smudge before you go to bed. I'm going to do that too. As soon as I'm
I'm
done.
just not even, no, my fingers, I'm just going to do jazz hands for the rest of the night. And then I'm safe, right? So, my mouth made that O shape, and then I could
Hmm.
feel this vortex of cold,
Hmm.
icy cold air going inside me. And I
Hmm.
just started shivering. And with
Hmm.
everything, so from the past 2 nights, it just clicked on me like, oh no, 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 this is not happening. And I coughed so hard, get out of me.
Hmm.
I'm staying
Hmm.
here. You all are leaving me alone. I'm staying right here. And as soon as I coughed, the room felt like it was back to 20 degrees.
Wow.
And so when you said that vortex of air going in your mouth, that's exactly what it felt like. It
Yep.
was
And you were in a
icy,
different
cold air.
timeline. Yep. And that's
I'm telling.
you. That was like a different time. I've done that too. I've time traveled between different timelines and seen things like what you were in a future timeline to see all this happening. But that vortex, that's exactly what a whistle is. Whistles
Yes.
creep me the F out, man. Like they really do.
You know,
Especially since I knew this legend,
yeah,
but it makes sense.
the
It
whole
opens
time.
up. So
Oh,
we
the whole time
also
you were telling that story, I'm like, oh, I don't want to hear anymore. I don't. I want to take my earbuds out.
like when there's a difference as well, like when we talk about blowing the violet breath, that's very different because you're exhaling, you're not whistling. Whistling is an intake and an outtake of air. This is
Hmm.
basically you're blowing that violet breath that people talk about in energy. Or you sometimes I will blow on something that's really, really hot, but it's not a whistle, right? So
Hmm.
and we're not opening up a vortex because we're expelling energy. The vortex becomes
Hmm.
open when you're like getting ready, you're wetting your lips, you're wetting my whistle, and you just start,
Yes.
no, that's the vortex. But that's, wow, that's crazy. What I was going to
So,
say to you is, aren't you glad you didn't turn on the lights?
oh, did you see me? Did you see me like freak out? Like, no, 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 you cannot be telling this story. You can't be.
Oh,
That's not possible.
I thought you were just
Man,
acting. And I'm like,
no. I'm
oh my
like,
God,
oh
because
my
this was
God.
a legend I grew up with. And like I grew up with that and I was told this in high school and then I saw this movie called Urban Legend and it was about different legends and it was a horror movie. It was probably one of my favorite ones and I'm like, "Oh my God, like how did they know about our legend here?" And then I find out that it's a
Hmm.
urban legend, but it and when you look up to see when it
Oh,
happened, every culture has one, like every city or whatever and
yes.
same one but
Yes.
different, right? So,
Skinwalker Ranch.
oh, we're not even going to talk about that one because
Yeah.
that's another one that the Navajo have.
Yeah.
Um, and
I,
there's also different legends. Like we could talk about creepy legends
yes.
for forever, but
I'm gonna give you my quick thought on Skinwalker Ranch.
okay.
It's gonna be super quick, and then I think we're gonna have to wrap it up.
Hmm.
I think Skinwalker Ranch was created to keep people off of the land.
Hmm.
Do you,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Okay, I'm so glad you agree with me because
Yeah,
I thought
that's
I was going
definitely
crazy.
a definite. And there's reasoning behind that because we have something in one of our seven sacred teachings called the Save. And the Save is Bigfoot or whatever you
Mm,
want to call that. And that would probably be the equivalent of what you're talking about. And
yeah.
that teaches honesty.
Hmm.
So,
I think
yeah.
my favorite legend is Xena Warrior Princess. I always
Mm,
say, under this marshmallow exterior lies the body of Xena Warrior Princess. Yes.
uh-huh. I would say so.
So,
Oh my goodness. I love
anyway,
her and yeah,
yes.
I love Princess Leia.
Yes, yeah.
And Wonder Woman was my favorite.
Wonder Woman, yeah, with the bracelets, yeah. And
Yeah.
the
So
invisible rope and the invisible, or sorry, the rope, the golden rope and the
the Golden
invisible
Rope.
plane. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's all they're all about empowerment. But again, legends. But you know, we can say, oh, you're such a legend. You're a legend in your own
Hmm.
time, or
Hmm.
things like that. And
Legendary.
legends, you're legendary. Legends can be uplifting or they can be downright terrifying, which was what you just did to me. Thank you. I am not sleeping tonight. I,
Inspiring. You'll sleep. You're gonna
we gotta get
smite
a,
and you're gonna go
I,
to sleep tonight. But yeah,
um,
these are things that we grew up. We're not for this week at heart. And I love
yeah,
that your timeline travel. And next, we don't know what we're gonna do next week. We haven't even talked about that.
haven't even talked about it. No, not at all. Um, we'll figure something out.
We'll
It'll
figure
be
it out.
interesting.
We got a
Just
whole
I
list of different topics, and
yes.
one of my favorite, we were supposed to do this one, our second show, and I think we're on show 10 now. Um, we were supposed to talk about words that people say.
Yes,
So,
let's do that. Yes.
when they talk about, I don't mean to offend you, what they're actually saying
Oh,
and
dog's gonna
what you're
bark.
grabbing. So, but yeah, so maybe we could do that. But there might be other ones too. We'll get back
Yes.
to you.
I like that. So maybe we'll work on that one for next week.
Mhm.
How's that?
Absolutely. I like
So,
that. This is going to be a good one, a big one.
yes, I'm a whole lot freaked out, and now I have to go downstairs into a dark basement to sleep. So, yay, mate.
No whistling.
No whistling. Oh gosh, no, no. I can't
And
even
so
whistle on a good day.
to counteract the whistling story really quick, because we probably get about 30 seconds, is grab yourself a wind chime, and that will
Okay.
protect you against the whistling. Because the wind chime is actually the chimes of the angels. It's the chimes of the spirit, the protector
Yeah.
spirit. So you put that
Okay.
outside,
I'm
you're
glad you
not going to
said
get any
that.
whistlers. Yeah.
Because
So you're
guarantee
good.
we're going to have some listeners that are going to start trying that just to,
Yeah.
it's like the
Yeah.
Ouija board. The Ouija board is a legend in itself too. Does it work? Does it not? We don't know.
Well, I mean, I do have
But
my son asked me about the Ouija board, and I did tell him a story that actually happened to me with that. And I will share that with you,
we
that
have one
that I've
downstairs.
had happen. Yeah. But
We have one
I've had
downstairs,
it.
and I'm tempted,
Yeah.
sort of.
I don't think I'm going to put it this way. I will never ever use one again. And the next time I see one, I will burn it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Or soak it in
So
water
I have a
first.
true life story about that. So whether
Yeah.
that's a legend, or not, this is a true life thing. And I do have witnesses because it was my cousins and all that stuff. So I'll tell you about that again. But if you're freaked out about this, I really do apologize. These are legends. I didn't tell you the Man one. I didn't all these things. I just told you a mild one. I only told you a mild version of that
That's
story.
a
But if
mild
you're
one.
freaked out a little bit, what I suggest is that you burn some sage tonight, clear out all those negative thinkings that you had, and clear away all the fear. If you have a wind chime, put a wind chime out front because the wind chime is kind of the antidote to that, because it makes its own music. And it's the music from whether you believe in angels or whatever it is that you believe in. It's that positive energy. Look how much it makes you smile. You
Hmm.
think about the high pitched sound that comes from the O vortex
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
the pipes coming out with the little square coming through it. That's not a whistle. That's a chime.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's completely
Yes.
different. And,
I am
so
glad you
be
said
one of
that
those out
too.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm
also
glad you said that.
if you do not have a wind chime, because I can hear people going, well, I don't have sage and I don't have a wind chime. So now what the hell am I going to do? What
You
you're
got
going to
spoons and
do is you're
forks
going
in
to
your drawer.
you got some right spoons and forks, which is why I talked to you about the dream catcher
Hmm.
that catches. It can be anything. Just put two
Hmm.
spoons. I don't care what it looks like. If you think you're nutty or crazy, this is my life. Put a
Hmm.
couple spoons, tie some strings or elastic around them, and just hang them up outside. As long as you can get a little bit of wind going and let
Yeah.
them clang together, you're
Get a
fine.
coat hanger or something and
Yep,
hang him from
yep.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, just
Anyway,
do
this
something.
was
So,
fun again. Well,
oh,
I'm going to say
and here's
fun.
another
Yes,
quick one. I just had a
sure,
message come in from, I just had a message download in
sure.
from spirits, and they said a bell. And as we were talking about that, my cat went by and was ringing her little bell on her on her collar. So
Hmm.
just ringing a little bell. If I'm sure that everybody has a bell of some sort, Christmas bells or whatever. You can just put them outside, walk around with them on your hand, and just whatever's
Yep.
going to make you feel better as well. But
Yes.
something that's going to make a little bit of musical noise.
Yes. Actually, there's a YouTube channel. I don't want to say what the channel name is, otherwise I'll have to credit her for it. But every time she does a tarot reading, and her tarot readings are absolutely beautiful.
Mm,
But before she starts, she rings her bells to
hmm.
call in spirit. But
Yep.
what else? Yeah,
I
so I'm so glad you
Yeah.
you you mentioned
Just to
that
do
because
something like that.
some people
Hmm.
might get into the whistling and not know how to get out of it. So yeah, that's
Hmm.
that's really glad.
It,
I'm glad you said that.
it can be very intriguing as well. Um, and it's not gonna, you know what? It's really not gonna happen to everybody. And that's why
No.
there is legends, right? It's those
Yes.
lessons that we learn. So we
Hmm.
just pick that up and maybe call it a superstition. I don't know. That would be another
Yeah.
show with superstitions.
Superstitions.
And
Yeah. Step on a
yeah,
crack, break my mother's
maybe
back.
my
Yeah.
mom was back, and
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, I just want to
Okay.
say that I've given you the solution to the issue. I
Yeah.
always sage when before I do any readings, before I do anything, I normally cleanse my cards before and after. I have rituals that I do myself to make sure any words that are spoken, all that, because once the words are out there, you can't bring them back. It's all
Super
energy, right?
toothpaste. Yep. It's toothpaste.
So yeah.
So, thank you all for coming and listening. We appreciate you so much. If you like what we're doing, please drop us a line in the comments below here. We're going to put the websites, my website, Lori's website, are going to be linked below here. Please share, please subscribe, um, comment, ask us questions, give us suggestions on topics. What do you want to hear? And yeah, just even if you just want to stop in and
Drop,
say hi, how
yeah,
are you? I
drop a legend in the
drop a
or
legend,
a
anything. Just yeah.
story.
Yeah. So this was great, and I'm so glad we kept it below the hour and a half this time.
I know. I don't want to bore
And
everybody.
okay, so next week we should have another great topic. I think we're going to talk about wording and how it can get you in trouble, how it can save your butt, and all
What
those
does
fun
it
things
really
that
mean?
yes,
How it
and
makes
the
you feel.
meanings of certain words. Okay, have a great night. I'll see you next week,
Have a good
Lori.
night. See you
Okay,
next
bye.
week. Bye bye.